I'm finally back with another LEGO airport update, and today's video is going to be massive with the air traffic control tower and the entire interior design work of the terminal. And I'd say let's start off with exactly that. First of all, you guys know me by now, I have to get rid of all the studs. In this case I'm using triangular shaped flat tiles because that gets rid of the grid structure of the studs. This right here is the area where you can scan your ticket and then board the plane. All the seating areas inside the terminal are completely built from scratch, so I haven't used the pre-molded Lego chairs, although that would have spared me quite a lot of pain and time, but it looks better that way. This right here is a small counter where you can buy snacks, something you can always find in this waiting area inside a terminal. I've also managed to place a few plants throughout the terminal because that always adds life. And then for the second little shop I've added, in this case this is a newspaper stand, also something you can always find inside airports. In this case I've also placed a few postcard and newspaper stands in front of the little counter right there just to fill up the space. And then as soon as I've added minifigures, everything really starts to come to life. Now let's take a look at the front section and the entrance of the terminal, because as you guys know, this is where the security area of course has to be placed in. And first of all, this is this giant metal detector where you can walk through, and right beside that I'm now placing this conveyor belt on which you place your carry-on luggage, and this is then slowly pushed through that scanner that checks if you have any dangerous substances in your luggage. On the side of this box that scans the luggage, you can see the screen where the security workers can then actually take a look inside the luggage and see if there's anything inside that shouldn't be taken on a plane. And then of course behind the metal detector there's another guy with a little handhold device to then further check a person should he not pass the metal detector test. Right in front of the security area there of course is the check-in area for the heavier luggage, so you can give that away before boarding the plane. And this is where I could now also building technique wise really experiment and develop new little things, for example with the angled conveyor belt or the chairs that are placed inside these two studs of the 2x3 plate, so you have that centered. Really fun little building techniques that also took quite some time to develop but look great in the end. Behind that check-in area of course the different arrival and departure times of airplanes are displayed, and for some little fun storytelling, this right there is one annoyed customer who just got told that his luggage is way too heavy, and therefore he's currently unpacking everything, sorting out different jackets and trousers and then layering them on top of each other to not pay a toll for overweight luggage. Little fun storytelling that of course has to be placed inside the terminal right there. Next up, I think it's time to take a look on the outside, because that's where we still have quite a lot of empty space, which is now first of all covered up with the air traffic control tower. This is the center of the big sort of column in the middle with all sorts of brick modifieds placed on each of those four sides, with of course the correct spacing going on. And on the outside I've now placed curved slopes in order to achieve basically this indestructible column or tower, however you want to call it. Although the tower itself is this part right here, I've spent quite some time really getting this circular shape of the top part of the traffic control tower correct, and this is now then placed on these 8 studs in total of the column we've prepared earlier, with, you can see that right there, all different monitors, computers and screens used to control the action going on the airfield, but of course also in the sky. On top of the roof you can then also find the little radar right there, which will hopefully rotate in future. And another thing that's important to keep track of the traffic that's going on the airfield are of course floodlights for the night. And I've already prepared everything for the future cables I'm going to add, and therefore I've also used these hollow 1x1 round bricks. Although there might have been smoother building techniques I've also experimented with in future. As I've mentioned, I want to light everything up just right there, for example, as it's the case with the basketball court. I want to add the exact same light but on a much larger scale, and therefore I have to place the cable somewhere, and everything is pre-planned in this case of course. Don't think I have to tell you what this right here is. The only difficult part with these stair cars that I used to board the plane is that I really needed to size down the scale, and therefore it's placed on a 4 stud wide vehicle which is something I usually try to avoid when building vehicles, but in this case the contrast between vehicle and airplane would have otherwise been too small, and I don't want to have any oversized vehicles, of course, and therefore everything is perfectly fitted to the size of the airplanes, and this is what now the staircase looks like leading up towards the airplane for the boarding process, or in this case I've added passengers leaving the airplane, mainly also to add a bit of storytelling on the tarmac itself, because otherwise that's quite boring. The next vehicle that was quite difficult building technique wise because of all the jumper plates right there. I'll let you guess what that vehicle is supposed to be in the end, but the reason for all these jumper plates was that I once again wanted to size down the vehicle a bit, make it 5 studs wide instead of the 6 studs, so every stud counts in this case, and therefore everything was a bit off-centered. But still, as you can see right there, a minifigure perfectly fits onto the vehicle, and of course, more vehicles are to follow in future. For now, I'd say let's focus on the most annoying part, I think that's fair to say, of today's video, the vegetation. I think it's been over a month now since I first shown you my first experiments for the vegetation, and I've now prepared all these green bear claws on a larger surface area so we can really get an idea of how that looks. Also right there, a small lawnmower that's currently mowing down the lawn that's too high at the moment, but the idea and look of this kind of vegetation, you guys also commented that, was that from the wind of the jet engines the grass is pushed down, and I think this look is really achieved by these bear claws, which for me of course now unfortunately means that I'll have to buy, I think, like 2,000 more of these things. Now, since we've talked so much on the outside, let's once again focus on the inside of the terminal, because as you might know, there's still quite a few things missing at the moment. And regarding the terminal, you might have noticed during today's video that we only have the departure part of the airport built so far, and already ran out of space, which means I'm now going to find, this is now for the next years probably, I'm now going to find a bigger space for the airport, double it in size, also double the terminal in size, and then in this section right here, this is where I'm now going to build the arrival part, where you can then claim your baggage once again and continue by train or whatever. Regarding the security area and the entrance of the building, since this part is quite cramped at the moment, I'm definitely going to extend an exterior entrance or whatever to the terminal, and then this will also function as the connection to the rest of the city. What's now of course absolutely important to be able to see what's going on inside the terminal is all the lighting, but I mean, it's no secret that that's going to be absolutely insane throughout the entire airport project. Now, another thing I want to show you is for this section, we now have the first ideas how we could theoretically use that space. I know it's a bit unrealistic, but we were all thinking about a starting platform for all the moon missions, for the moon base downstairs, which, as you might know, is another project of mine which I'm also currently still working on, and you could expect another video in the next months for the moon base as well. So definitely let me know what you think about this idea. Then also leave all your comments and ideas for other vehicles for the airport down in the comment section, and with that it's time for the before and after picture, at least for the interior of the terminal. This is what it looks like after today's update. Of course, a massive difference, and finally details for the airport. That was so important. And with that being said, that's it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again in the next one.